It's day 27. It's also June 1st, 2019. And we are in Garibaldi, Oregon. You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Craig, and this is my story. A story about life. Life out there. For visuals while listening, search Life Out There on your favorite social media platform or use the links in the podcast description. A drive along the Oregon coast on US 101, well, that just never disappoints. US 101 in most places today is a US Historic Scenic Highway. It originated in the 1920s in California. Its primary objective was to connect the Los Angeles area with Spanish missions along the coastline, but it would eventually connect Oregon and Washington to California with over 1,500 miles worth of highway. With the introduction of Interstate 5 in the 1960s, the majority of north-south travel today has moved further inland, making any trip between California, Oregon, and Washington much faster. But if you have the time, it's definitely worth it to take a drive on Historic 101. Today, you'll be detoured in a few spots back out to I-5, but trust me, spend as much time as you can on 101. In Oregon, the entire 360-mile-long coastline is a spectacular drive the whole way on 101. In fact, they've even put that on signs along the way. As we drop down out of the Siuslaw National Forest mountains back along the coast, I read a sign that actually said, quote, "South of here, Highway 101 closely parallels a spectacular shoreline. Be prepared to dazzle your senses with offshore sea stacks, arched rocks, and panoramic vistas. Plan to stop and take plenty of photos along the way. Highway 101 is your road to adventure and discovery." End quote. For us, we'd wind our way past those spectacular panoramic vistas, inland, up, and into, then through the lush forestry of the Siuslaw National Forest. And let's talk about the Siuslaw National Forest. One could spend days, or even more, just exploring this place. With over 600,000 acres of the Pacific Northwest within its borders, it's one of only 2 national forests in the lower 48 that can claim oceanfront within its borders. It also contains the largest expanse of temperate coastal sand dunes in the world. Its diverse range of ecosystems support a variety of wildlife ranging from elk, black bear, bald eagles to, well, Chinook, coho, and steelhead salmon. You know, ocean and all. And, probably goes without saying, but the area is rich with cultural and historical heritage given its relationship with the indigenous peoples dating back thousands of years. Our drive through the forest would take us down through grassy hillsides and creeks, the road lined with dairy farms and fishermen, and back out to that one-of-a-kind coastal scenery. Go far enough and you'll find sea lion caves and the Oregon Dunes Recreational Area in a place called Florence. Some 55 miles south of Astoria, we found the historic fishing village of Garibaldi, a port town nestled in the northern end of Tillamook Bay. Driving into Garibaldi, I spotted a pullout on the side of the road, a large parking area lined with trees, and the bay peeking through. There were already a couple of RVs parked along the roadway, so clearly, I thought, there's something to see here. We found our spot, a quick walk around with Dougie, too close to the highway for Billie's antics right now, and decided we'd found a great spot for an overnight camp. 15 minutes later, we were leveled up, steaks were defrosting, and the barbecue was out. and as would become my thing, I had already done some quick reading. Interesting to learn how a small piece of Oregon's North Tillamook Bay area could have such close ties to not only America's Civil War, but how democracy unfolded on the world stage not so very long ago. But before digging in, it was time to break out Billie's harness and Dougie's leash for a short walk up the road to the stoplight, cross the highway, and then a long walk up and down the small town streets lined with craftsman-style homes, mobile homes, and even an RV park. I briefly considered relocating to the RV park, but then thought, why? We already have a front row seat to the comings and goings of the Tillamook Bay. Probably no better way to spend an afternoon. Then dinner, some quality time enjoying those comings and goings, and quite a bit of it actually, and a lot of pictures. Snuggled into the motorhome for the night, windows open so we could listen to the sounds of the bay, it was time to start reading. Garibaldi. It's a small port town and maritime community at the northern end of Tillamook Bay, not too far from where the bay opens into the Pacific Ocean, and the city has a population of around 800. A total area of 1.37 square miles, 0.38 of which is water, so clearly it's all about the bay in Garibaldi. Before the arrival of European and American settlers, Garibaldi was inhabited by the Tillamook people, who were the indigenous people of the Oregon coast. They lived in the area for about 12,000 years, from Tillamook Head to Cape Foulweather. Their activity extended inland to the summit of the Oregon Coast Range. They had a rich culture and history based on fishing, hunting, gathering, and trading with other tribes. They also had a complex social and political organization, including a hereditary chiefdom system and a council of elders. They spoke the Salishan language, the origins of which date back some 6,000 years, but is now extinct. An interesting fact popped up in reading about the settlement of this area, and that is that this was the first area where I had read about conflict. And so why does it pop up here? Here's why. The fight between Captain Robert Gray and the Native Americans in Garibaldi was a violent encounter that occurred in August 1788. When Gray and his crew of the Lady Washington visited Tillamook Bay for supplies, he and his men were attacked by the local Tillamook people. Many suspect they had been provoked by previous mistreatment by European traders. It was a violent conflict, resulting in the death of one of Gray's party and several of the Tillamook warriors. Gray and his men managed to escape and set sail, but not before burning some of the Tillamook's canoes and houses. This incident was one of the first recorded conflicts between the Pacific Northwest Indians and the European and white settlers. It also marked the beginning of Gray's reputation as a brutal and ruthless trader. It's interesting that I didn't read about any conflict with Gray in Washington. Gray's Harbor is named after him, so apparently this was saved for his time in Oregon. It would be some 70 or 80 years later when a man named Daniel Billie would become the first known property owner in the area. Billie was born in New Hampshire but would eventually migrate to Oregon in the mid-1840s when he joined the Oregon Trail migration. After settlement in the Tillamook Bay area, he'd go on to establish the area's first general store, hotel, and post office. In doing so, he named the town after an Italian general named Giuseppe Garibaldi. Garibaldi was known for his long, illustrious career in the Italian military, also known for the key role he played in the Italian reunification and creation of the Kingdom of Italy in the 19th century. He was also known as the hero of two worlds because of his military adventures in South America and Europe. His support of the democratic forms of government, as well as his efforts to abolish slavery across the globe, caught the attention of President Abraham Lincoln in the United States, who would offer him a commission to fight for the Union Army in the American Civil War. Garibaldi would decline the offer, but would later express great respect for Lincoln and praise him on the Emancipation Proclamation. So I guess Daniel Bailey admired Garibaldi as much as President Lincoln did, given that he named the town for him when Garibaldi had never actually lived anywhere in the United States, let alone Oregon. Today, Garibaldi thrives, enjoying a robust tourism and fishing industry. The arts play a pivotal role in the community as well. The quiet little town plays host to thousands of visitors each year, probably many of which to visit the longest pier in Oregon at the Boathouse. Or maybe one of the seafood restaurants, stores, galleries, or maybe charter a boat for some of the best deep-sea fishing the Pacific Ocean has to offer. For us, it was a night pulled off at a historical marker. The evening was spent over a barbecue, admiring how the lush hillsides blend into the marshlands and gradually opening up into the bay and eventually the vast Pacific Ocean. Waking up the next morning to the sound of fishermen loading supplies from their trucks down onto their boats. In the distance, we could hear several other boats chugging their way through the morning tides of the Tillamook Bay and out to sea for a day of fishing. It's a pretty awesome way to start a Sunday. In fact, I complimented hanging out for another day or so, but I guess rambling fever got the better of me yet again. So, pulling out a Garibaldi, finding myself wondering again, where to next? And I wonder what we'll learn there. Turns out, this thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously, you can.